Good afternoon, everyone. We hope you all are well. Very excited to be here this afternoon. Thanks to all of you for joining us. And also just a quick reminder, we are recording this webinar and we'll be sending it out in an email to everyone sailing with us tomorrow. So that will be available for guests as well to see it if for some reason you join late or if you need to drop off, just know that you will have access to it in your email. Additionally, we will be answering all of your questions at the conclusion of our little presentation here. But feel free as you go along, if you think of anything, to go ahead and put them in the Q&A down there. So obviously there's the chat option, but the
So I think we've lost Maureen's microphone. So I just want to say, if in case you didn't hear, go ahead and put your questions in the Q&A, and then we'll be answering those towards the end. So hello, I'm Connie Saunders, and Maureen is on the line with us today on the webinar, and we're excited to tell you everything you need to know about our upcoming sailing that's just in 12 days. Exciting. So here's the things we're going to go through today. We're going to have a quick introduction. We're going to talk about the pre-cruise, the check-in process, what to expect on day one, all about dining, because isn't that really the only reason why we're going anyway? Well, sort of. Drinks, all about your ship, the gluten-free safety, events, attire, cruising 101 and 201, but don't worry, there won't be a final exam at the end, and then also Q&A at the end. So once again, if you have any questions, put them in the Q&A and we'll answer them at the end. So we're going to be sailing for the very first time out of New Jersey. So we love the New York area, and it's going to be beautiful sailing out of Bayonne, which is in New Jersey. It's very easy to get there from the Penn Station Newark train or from the EWR airport. You can even get there if you fly into JFK or LaGuardia, just to get a transfer, and we're happy to answer any questions you may have about that. Maureen has it here that we're going to have gluten-free dining guides coming soon, so we'll be sending those out to everyone very soon, that will have everything that you need to know about all the delicious gluten-free restaurants in New York. And we also have some surprises coming later on. So stay tuned because during this webinar, we're going to have some exciting announcements. Actually, it's here.
Well, as many of you know, and you may have seen, we did send out an email. We have some exciting pre-cruise events. We know that obviously many of you, I don't know, might want to stop in New York. There's many, many gluten-free amazing opportunities, but these are just some people in the community who had reached out to us who have done these things frequently. So there's a lot of these get-togethers in New York, and they wanted to know if we wanted to participate and just have the opportunity for our guests to maybe get to the chance to meet or get to know each other prior to. So it is not only our group, but the majority of the group will be from Celiac Cruise. So you will know that. But I have heard, rumor has it, that there was a dinner. The dinner is sold out. So those of you who booked, you got in there quick. But there is still a brunch that's available. Both of these events are on Saturday, July 12th. They're in the Manhattan area. So there's a brunch at this place called Columns. Do know that both of these restaurants are dedicated gluten-free. So there's no gluten-free, no gluten in this entire establishment. So obviously that is kind of how Celiac Cruise feels comfortable participating in these events. So apparently there's 4 gluten-free brunch courses. I've heard this French toast is supposedly to die for. So they rave about it, but there's also a wine pairing. 6 different wines will be tasted. So if you are there and looking for something, exciting to do to get you ready for your vacation on Sunday, 11:30 to 1:30, and there is a discount for those of us sailing with Celiac Cruise. So you can see there's the QR code if you want to scan that, just if you have any interest in joining for the brunch event. So I will go ahead and put that in the Facebook group as well. So that's available if you wanted to jump on and join. So,
And we'll make sure to include that in the next newsletter as well, too, so that you have that. So check-in process is open now. If you haven't had a chance to do so, please download the Royal Caribbean app on your phone, because on the cruise, you can either connect to Royal Caribbean's internet for free, or you can connect Royal Caribbean's internet and pay. But you have to have the app in order to do that. So go ahead and download the app now, or you can also check in on royalcaribbean.com. But you can do it on your phone, and they just need a little information. You'll pick a time to board, but we're going to say this now and we're going to say it again later. They're not strict about the times like they used to be. So if you get a later time, don't worry about it. Just come on over to the port anytime around 11:30 or so, or by noon, and come on board, and your delicious gluten-free lunch will be available, which we'll go into a little bit more later. But do not worry. See how we put that in bold? Do not worry. So once you get on board, there's going to be 2 options for you to choose from for your gluten-free lunch on board. So the Symphony of the Seas is located right there in Bayonne. The address is there. If you need it, feel free to reach out and we can send it to you again, although this is being recorded so you can see it. Like I said, try to arrive around 11. You can print your luggage tags usually about 3 days before the cruise, or maybe a little bit more than that. Please note that online check-in closes 72 hours before the cruise. So this week or early next week, make sure you get your online check-in done so that you don't miss out on that. Once you get on board, Maureen, you want to talk about the 2 lunch options?
sure thing. Yes. So I know many of you have been wondering, because we may all be hungry. There might not be options for breakfast. Like I said, we will be sending you all a dining guide, so you have plenty of, options depending upon where you're staying. But yes, some of the airport options we know aren't always reliable. So we may know you may be coming hungry. So we have 2 venues on board Symphony for breakfast and lunch, and it's that'll be the case throughout the week. But particularly if you're boarding day lunch, the Solarium Bistro will be the venue that is more of the come in whenever you want. It's more of a come as you want. They're different buffet items, but it's all freshly served. They're making them continuously. This is, again, a dedicated galley. So that is a beautiful venue at the top of the ship, deck 15, I believe, on the front of the ship, 11:30 to 2:30. So you have great flexibility there. You can come at 2:15, and that's kind of how those open rolling hours are. It's a great venue, lots of options, and we do request, we'll get into this in a second. The main dining room is also an option. So this is deck 5, and that's in the back of the ship. We'll further known as aft, the aft part of the ship. So lunch will be served there between 11:30 and 1:30. So that will be a sit-down option. I think the team has kind of requested that our primary venue be the Solarium Bistro. They're expecting us there, but we will have main dining room as well for additional people who maybe want to have a sit-down, more leisurely lunch. If you do have additional food allergies, we are requesting that you go to the main dining room, just because you may have more options there. And we'll get into this a little bit more, but that is just kind of at request of our culinary team. So they have more opportunity to prepare specific things. Whereas the solarium, there will be additional dairy-free and things like that available, but there might be more flexibility in the main dining room for that. Lunch ticket. So you will be receiving, and it's nothing fancy, it's just a piece of paper that will be sent to you in the final newsletter that will be heading to your inboxes probably the end of this week. And we just ask that you show that to one of us who will be standing at the door. That is because a lot of people want to come into these special venues. No one else has these privatized lunches on board, and the Solarium is a very, very coveted venue. So it's ours for the duration of this. So we want to make sure that only people who should be in there are in there. That's for our safety. So we're just going to request that, you either just pull it up on your phone and show us, or you can go ahead and print it out. One ticket per your party is fine. So don't feel like if you have 5 in your party that you have to print 5 tickets. We just want to make sure, again, you should be where you are, and do not panic if for some reason that morning you forgot. We'll put it in the Facebook group too. So know that's another resort to be able to go through that to show us. But we also will have a list, a manifest of everyone's name, so we can also check with that. So again, this is vacation days. Travels are stressful enough. We don't want you to stress and worry about this, but just know that when we say lunch ticket, that's what that means. Cabins usually open around 1:30. Sometimes it's 1, but 1:30 seems to be the safe sweet spot, so that we usually will give you some time to be able to relax a little bit, get settled before the afternoon sail away events take place. We always will have your welcome aboard reception and expo. So that is happening between the hours. Again, between the hours doesn't mean it starts at 12:30. You can show up at 2:45 if you want, between the hours of 12:30 and 3 o'clock. And what will happen there is you will receive all of your Celiac Cruise credentials. So from this point moving forward, you will all have a lanyard. You'll have a wristband that will identify you as part of our group. So we won't need to ask for these lunch tickets or anything like that, because we'll be able to identify you based upon those credentials to just, again, to ensure the safety of our venues, stay gluten-free and safe for all of us. So that's what those are for. And then there's a sail away party, because what's great is we're sailing away, from what I see, sometimes we're a little later, but 3 o'clock. So make sure you are on the ship. What time, Connie?
You have to be on board 90 minutes prior to sailing, or they can refuse you to enter. So make sure, I would say 1 o'clock. Shoot for being on the ship, checked in and on the ship by 1 p.m. That gives you a little bit of wiggle room, because they can deny you as early as 1:30.
Yes. So,
And the other thing is, once you get on, it's not like you're waiting for an airplane to take off. Once you get on, your cruise is started. So as soon as you get on, you get to come to lunch, and you get to explore the ship, and you get to come to the expo, and it's exciting. So get there early, and we look forward to seeing you there.
and we'll have additional information about our sail away get together as well, further in the presentation, but also in some of the schedules and documents you'll be receiving later this week in your emails. So again, just to recap, kind of just a general idea of what boarding day looks like for dining purposes. So everybody knows. So we have two options for welcome aboard lunch: the Solarium Bistro, which is deck 15, forward between the hours of 11:30 and 2:30. Options in the main dining room, which is a slower pace sit down lunch. Well, they're all sit down, of course, but sit down in that you'll have a server. We don't make you stand up and eat, but sit down lunch in that you'll have a menu and things like that you'll select from. It's a shortened menu compared to what you'll see on most traditional lunches through the week. And then so and we'll mention this now, Park Cafe will additionally have some pre-packaged sandwiches for all of us that are prepared in our Deck 5 galley. They'll be prepared in advance, but those are available if for some reason plans go astray and you need to run and grab something quick. Sorrento's Pizza also will be an option. Those we'll get into that in terms of, but there's a dedicated oven that will be there for us as well. So pizza is always a good option too, but that's it for throughout the duration of the week. So those are kind of your mainstream options for lunch as you think through your planning through the week. And then we have dinner, main dining room, deck Oh, five. Look, I should have put another five there. But deck five is your home base for purposes of the main dining room, and that is at 5 p.m. And fret not, we will be eating again your fourth meal. The word snacks is quite comical, as this is an entire fourth full meal that will take place at 10 p.m. between the hours of 10 and 11. Again, open seating, and that is in the Windjammer, deck 16. And this is an exclusive, privatized, only for us opportunity. And these late night snacks have become legendary. If any of you have been following us on social media, even through the duration of last week, just really, really amazing things that the culinary team at Royal has put together for us, and some things that, are real treats for being able to try and not haven't been able to eat in a long time. So that will be available every evening between 10 and 11. And okay, yeah. So we talked about additional dietary restrictions for boarding day. We recommend you do go to the main dining room. But, at dinner, the first evening, we ask that you talk to your server. If there's specific, in addition to dairy, things like that, we may want to ask to have you coordinate with a chef too, just to make sure, they can plan ahead and try and adapt some of the gluten-free offerings so you're able to have those. So before you start taking pictures and like reading this and this will all be coming to you in that handy dandy document. That's the top right corner there. That is not the official one. That's a sample, as I stated there. But you will have all of this, a copy of this. You can print it at home. And then there'll be a QR code so you can pull it up on your phones and save it. So you have access to this throughout the duration of the week. But we like to just be able to give people a preview of what to expect. So when we are at sea, so we have 3 beautiful sea days on board this amazing ship, dare I say, possibly my favorite ship of all of the Royal Caribbean fleet. But it's a great, great ship to be able to really have the time, 3 sea days to be able to enjoy. But we also want you to be able to be on vacation and not, forced to be up early if that's not your thing. But if you are up early, we want you to have options for breakfast and lunches as well. So we'll have those 2 venues as described, closed to only our Celiac Cruise group. Solarium Bistro will be open between 8 and 10:30. When we're at sea. The main dining room breakfast on deck 5 will be 8 to 9:30. And there will also be Park Cafe, which is in the Central Park area of the ship, deck 8. There will be gluten-free bagels and things like that available. Again, if you just want something quick, fruit, things like that. So that's available. Lunch, same thing goes. Solarium Bistro, 12 to 2. And the main dining room, deck 5, 11:30 to 1. As you see, Park Cafe again, and then Sorrento's, as we talked about before. And then there's also another place called Cafe Promenade on deck 5 that will have prepackaged sandwiches that are coming from our dedicated galley as well. And then we have the dinner run through, which is actually the same every single evening of our sailing. So nothing changes there, as well as the late night snacks. But then there's also, these additional options. If for some reason you do get back late, and, from a port of call, because this will be the same timing available. So I'll talk about that in the next slide. But just know that those are options available for you if for some reason you aren't back in time for dinner. And now, so something that we're really excited about that is unique, that I think works perfectly with our 2 particular port days, Port Canaveral as well as Nassau, because if you look at that, we don't get into port until later that day. So what Royal has offered, which is just a real treat, is to be able to have the option to have brunch on both days 3 and 4 in the Solarium Bistro. So they will be operating kind of a brunch lunch option, 8:30 to 12:30. So those 4 hours will be, come as you will. So you really have pure flexibility in terms of when you're eating. That will vary when we're in Coco Cay, because we assume most of you are going to want to get off that ship as fast as possible. That will be Day 5 breakfast we'll have in the Solarium 7 to 9:30. Again, remember, you will have this paper and this document, so you don't have to memorize this or worry about having it all down today. But then again, for lunch, main dining room, 11:30 to 1. Coco K, we'll talk about on Coco K. We have this beautiful barbecue dedicated line just for us, which is really, really special. So you can enjoy a lunch out on the island and not having to go back to the ship. But just in case you prefer to do that, to come back to the ship, we have 11:30 to 1:30 in the bistro available on Coco K Day. Huh. Okay. So those are all of your hours and specifics on dining.
So a lot of you have asked what's included on the cruise and what costs extra. So as you can see, iced tea, ice water, regular and decaf coffee, juice and milk, those are all included for free. What you have to pay for is bottled waters, specialty coffees like cappuccinos, espressos, things like that. There is a proper Starbucks on board. Of course, that's going to cost. Sodas and then alcohol, beer, wine, liquor, that sort of thing. Royal Caribbean does offer an all-inclusive beverage package that's about $80, $90 per person per day for their all-inclusive package. And we've worked it out. It's about 8 drinks. So depending upon, some people like to have a bill, like to not have a bill at the end of the cruise. So if you want to purchase the alcohol package or the all-inclusive, they even have a soda package. It's called Bubbles. And you can even pre-purchase bottled waters for your cabin if you want. But they do offer a lot of inclusions. And of course, all the meals, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and late night snacks are all included in the cost of the cruise. These are some of the things that are on the ship that are just a million things to do. There's actually 7 neighborhoods on this cruise ship. It's the second largest cruise ship in the world with so many things to do. Like, honestly, I could go on a 7-night cruise and not even get off. It's that great. So there's dry and water slides available for kids and those of us that are kids at heart. There is a zip line, and all of these things, by the way, are included. They're complimentary. There's a zip line. There's a merry-go-round. There's, I think, 7 pools. There's a rising tide bar that goes from there's a shopping mall down the center of the ship called the Promenade. And then there's an open air space called Central Park that has trees and music, and it's just lovely. There's a boardwalk area where the merry-go-round is that has an aqua theater show with high diving shows and all kinds of synchronized swimming. And there's tons of things to do. And that's why it's important to have your Royal Caribbean app so that you can stay in touch with, all the things that the ship has to offer. But because you're part of the Celiac Cruise, you have even more things. And these are things that we offer as Celiac Cruise to our guests as an opportunity to meet up and meet each other and get to know each other. And then some of the things that we do are actually fundraising events where we raise money to feed families that can't afford gluten-free food. And we'll get into that a little bit more later on. But we have education events, and these are sponsored by us, but also the Celiac Disease Foundation is in charge of this as well. So they we'll be sending an email with all of the events, and you can pre-register for the free events. And also if you want to register for any of the paid events. So the education events are complimentary. That's going to be in the theater, and you get to hear from our speaker, which we'll talk about in just a second. Coffee and Conversation is an adult venue where we get together and just sit around and talk about whatever comes up about celiac disease, or it's a great conversation to just sit around and have coffee for an hour and talk through things. It's really amazing. We'll have a beer tasting event with Holiday beer. It's beers that are on board the ship that you can't get. There's a couple of those. And then some surprises and things coming. That one costs because that one is a fundraiser for the Celiac Disease Foundation. Karaoke parties and ice skating events. There's adult meetups. There's a wow cookie decorating event. Lots of events for kiddos, and much, much more. So all of this is going to come in an email to you as we finalize all the details and send them to you. You'll get it in an email with the times and the place, and then we'll also send you a link in that email so that you can register for all of these events. Some of the events are capacity controlled, so if you're interested, I would suggest that you sign up right away.
So how do we do this? How do we go into our 24th cruise, which you all will be sailing with, and ensure the safety? Which, because as we all know, without safety, we have nothing. Just as a note, Celiac Cruise began because of a little boy named Peter, who is not so little anymore. He's actually just turned 13. Peter is my son who has celiac disease, my husband as well. So we fully understand the challenges, the concerns, the nerves of how does this really work? How do you ensure that this is as delivered and as stated? And I hope, many of you, going into this can read and, see the previous guests' feedback because, nothing like hearing it from people who just got off the ship literally 2 days ago of the safety that was offered and delivered to them. So what happens is we do a full on-site inspection. So we will be boarding the ship long before you all, some of us sooner than others, but we will be leaving in a matter of days to join the Symphony of the Seas to get started on all of these things. Every crew member is trained, every food and beverage person is trained specifically on celiac disease, but also the handling and management and the whys. And this is why you have to be so careful. And one crumb is really how this works. So all of those details are reviewed. So we also hope that, as we finish and conclude our cruise on the 20th, that those crew member also take a little bit of knowledge and information on celiac disease. So, they understand a little bit more when they go on to serve other guests in the future, possibly with, gluten intolerance or celiac. So every single ingredient down in the belly of the ship. So we literally go underwater and check every single box. Label is read in comparison to the menu. So we're looking at the menu, every ingredient compared, what is going in this. And that is done in addition with the Celiac Disease Foundation, dietitians, nutritionists, and specialists in many different arenas. The menus, as I said, are reviewed with the entire culinary team. We check once, we check twice, we up and down. Everything is reviewed and checked. The straws are checked. The mixers are checked. Everything you can think of. The cherries, the pickles, you name it. We will ensure that what we offer you is safe. Gluten-free, the galley. So essentially what happens, we'll also go through the galley and ensure, everything, how they're managing this, how, they reroute the entire operation. So room service is rerouted to a different galley just to ensure there is no risk of, flour flying, things like that. So deck 5 galley is gluten-free. So that is all reviewed prior to. Again, luckily we have a very similar culinary team. We have a traveling team that comes with us. They've done 23 of these before with us. So that also is a really nice, comforting concept that, Royal Caribbean loves to be a part of this. And it's such a refreshing feeling, I think, for many of us who were used to being an inconvenience. So normally that's the sense, the emotion of this, but what happens is people ask to be a part of this. And I think they really, really understand that this is something really special. So they're excited. Coco K, that's where, we will review all of that entire line that we talked about, the gluten-free line, and you'll have specific maps and details to know where you are going, to make sure we'll have signage, our Celiac Cruise signage on the island, so you know exactly where the gluten-free line is. So yes, hours and hours and hours are spent just to ensure the safety is in place. So we talked about the onboard events, so we'll just talk about them a little bit more, compartmentalized here. So Holidaily, as many of you know, amazing people as amazing beer. They're out in Golden, Colorado. This beer is brought on only for our sailings. It is then taken off immediately after our sailing. So this is a unique opportunity because usually what Royal Caribbean only has on board is gluten-reduced offerings. So we want to ensure we have a truly gluten-free experience, which Holidaily is brewed with all naturally gluten-free grains. It is certified gluten-free. And so we will have a beer tasting. So there will be 2 beers available in the drink package from Holidaily throughout the course of your cruise. So you will always have these 2 beers. One very exciting beer that we'll share some more details about. A special launch of a new beer actually will be happening on board the Symphony of the Seas in partnership with Holidaily. But in addition to that, we'll have a beer tasting that will give you the opportunity, should you choose to participate, to have some additional offerings that they have sent all the way from Colorado. And we like to make this a little more exciting, not just a beer tasting, it's also a karaoke party. So there's actually a karaoke bar on board, because why not? You have to have this ship has everything in addition to a karaoke bar. So this will be only our venue. So you must be a part of our group to be able to participate in this. But you also are asked, should you want to, not required, to dress your favorite decade. So whether that be 70s, whether that be 80s, again, not required, but sometimes people love to get in the spirit of it. So should you want to participate, please feel free to dress and participate. So we will also, once we get to Coco Cay, we'll be offering a family fun walk. And again, 100% of these proceeds goes to our food insecurity initiative, which we will be feeding families who can't afford the gluten-free diet. This is a quick 2 laps around the island. But what's amazing is we are the first people on that island. So there'll be 2 ships on Coco Cay. So it's a really great opportunity to get out there before anyone else does. Sometimes people join the walk just to find their favorite chair and put their bag down on it. So it's a nice little incentive to be able to see the island fresh without anyone else there, but also possibly stake out your preferred spot before the crowds come out. Taste of Royal. For those of you who have sailed with us before, this is an amazing opportunity to just kind of switch things up for a day. This is one of our sea days. This is a sampler menu of some of Royal Caribbean's specialty restaurants. So during the duration of our cruise, we do not advise our guests to do the specialty restaurants unless you are comfortable with shared environments. But, as you operate at home, it's kind of what, we always say your celiac is not my celiac. However you choose to manage that is fine. But what we want to do is make sure you have a chance to experience this. So we will be making that offering, Taste of Royal. It's a 5 or 6 course meal of all of the different specialty restaurants. And again, it is a fundraiser that 100% of those proceeds goes to our food insecurity offerings. And then we have a silent disco party if anyone has ever participated in that. They're really, really fun things. That's on day 7. And there's also a silent auction that will take place then. And more. So we have possibly some other events that we're waiting on final placement of days from the Royal Caribbean team, but we may have one more thing that we'll be adding. And we will be sending you, again, we keep talking about this email that's coming the end of this week that will have links to register for all of these things, your final schedules and things like that. But all of that will be coming to you and you can register for those events. We talked about the keynote presentation. We are very, very lucky. I don't know if you don't know this name, Mary Vargas, I ask you to Google when we get off this webinar. She is quite an amazing human being. She has done incredible advocacy for disability legal services throughout the world, honestly. Some really, really amazing cases, but one of her specialties is actually celiac disease. So just there's a case in Williamsburg that many of you may have heard of, but she is joining us to just kind of talk through advocacy and advancement. So what we have rights, whether that's in school, whether that's adults as flying, in airports and things like that. So lots of different things that she'll be able to share with us. And then again, Vanessa Weisbrod, who is with the Celiac Disease Foundation, is going to give us kind of an update on scientific progress, the research that's happening. So, by no means are you required to participate in this. It's your vacation. You can choose to do with it what you will. But we always hope, should you want to, you may walk away learning something and feeling a little bit better about navigating life with celiac. So that's always an option and available in all of our cruises.
And it is a complimentary event, but it will be included in the email that comes out so you can register for it. And that'll just help you remember when and where it is. Just so back to the events, our events are not in the app. They're not part of Royal Caribbean's because our events are private. So we will have a board every day that talks about all of our events. So we'll tell you a little bit more about that when you get on board the ship. But our whiteboard, we update it every single day, and we ask that you make a photo of it every single day when you come into either the Solarium Bistro or to the dining room so that you have access to everything we have going on. So, Cruising 101, we did talk about Holidaily is included in the drink package, but let's say you don't want to drink 8+ drinks a day and you just want to have a Holidaily beer. You can certainly purchase that or a soda or even a bottled water at any bar and just buy it by the drink. If you want to get a package, you do that ahead of time to save money. Dining packages, we do not suggest that you participate in the dining packages because our restaurant is, as Maureen said, both of our restaurants are completely dedicated gluten-free. So we suggest that, that's where we've put all the time and effort and energy and training into. So that's where we suggest that you go. Royal Caribbean offers amazing shows. This ship has Hairspray. So Hairspray is a Broadway show. It's full-length Broadway show. It doesn't cost, but you do need to get a ticket. And that's part of the online check-in from your Royal Caribbean app to get a ticket to that. If you can't get a ticket, don't worry, because they offer more tickets to the event on the day that you get on board the ship. So as soon as you get on, you can go into the app and reserve a show, or you can go standby. So let's say that it's tonight at 8. You can go anytime after 7:45 and just walk in as long as there's space available. So the big shows, there's plenty of space, but there's a lot of shows on board. The Aqua Theater show is one of the most amazing ones. So be sure and to see that. There's comedy, there's all kinds of shows on board and lots of live music and just a lot of fun. So the ports of call, we don't suggest that you eat out. So you can imagine how much work that is put into making sure that our cruise is safe, right? That's our main objective, is that our cruise is safe. And we don't have the opportunity to vet the excursions or where that food is prepared or how safe that food is. So we typically suggest that you either eat before the excursion or after. We will give you a gluten-free, bar in your goodie bag when you check in on the ship, but we don't suggest that you eat off the ship because there's just no way for us to vet it. If you're concerned about motion sickness, this is a very large ship, so it's in the very unlikely event that you would feel anything. They do have some seasick pills at the front desk, and those we always check them every time, and every single time they've been gluten-free, but we'll continue to check to make sure that they are. You can ask your doctor about a little patch that goes behind your ear if you're really concerned. But this is one of the bigger ships and with lots of stabilizers. So in my personal opinion, I think that would just be something optional. Embarkation and disembarkation, that means getting on and getting off the ship. Embarkation, remember we told you to come on around 11:30 so that you can get on and have your lunch. You'll want to make sure you have your passport with you, or if you're a U.S. citizen, your original birth certificate and photo ID if you don't have a passport, but that's only for U.S. citizens. So you'll want to keep that with you. It's pretty easy to get on, especially if you've done your online check-in. It takes about less than 15 minutes from the door to being on the ship usually. So, it's a pretty quick process. They've streamlined it. It's a really amazing ship, and they've done a great job. Once you get on board, you'll want to go straight to your muster station, and that's where you're going to just check in with the folks there. That's where you would go in the event of an emergency, and they'll tell you, about 3 minutes you'll spend there, and then you're free. There's no more requirements that day. When it's time to get off the ship, that's the saddest day of the whole cruise, is disembarkation day. And if you're on social media, Maureen just posted a beautiful video of a guy crying, a little cartoon character crying because he was leaving the ship. And that's exactly how we all feel on the last day. There will be breakfast available in both the Solarian Bistro and the main dining room, so you'll get a full belly before you leave the ship. You will need your passport to get off the ship, or original birth certificate and photo ID if you're a U.S. citizen and don't have a passport. But with the disembarkation, now that they have facial recognition, is even faster. So you'll be able to, we'll pull in around 6 a.m. usually, and they'll start letting folks off around 7 a.m. And then if you're putting your luggage out the night before, they ask you to put your luggage out by 10 p.m. and they'll come around and collect all the luggage, and then it'll be waiting for you in the port after you get off the ship. So if you want to carry your own luggage off the ship and you want to be what they call self-assist, you don't want to put your luggage out the night before, you can lug your luggage off all by yourself. Then you can get off the first thing and be one of the first ones off. So that's disembarkation. So we kind of talked about this a little bit, but we'll just kind of go through it again. Lots of slides, the merry-go-round. The kids clubs are complimentary for 3 years and up. They do offer group babysitting for under 3 years old, and you can contact Royal Caribbean about that because you do have to pre-arrange if it's babies. Rock climbing wall, you do need socks. There's an ice skating rink, believe it or not, in the middle of the ship, in the middle of the ocean, and there's free ice skating, so you'll need jeans and socks to be able to do that. The Flow Rider is a surfing simulator on the back of the ship, but there's not just one, but wait, there's two. So one is more for the beginners who are on their belly or maybe on their knees, and then the other one is typically for those that are, really good and standing up. I am not a surfer, but I love to go back there and watch them. So even if you're not going to do the Flow Rider, it might be cool to go back there and watch others. The zip line, there is a zip line on a ship in the middle of the ocean. So you do need shoes that tie up for that. It's pretty exhilarating, so that's cool. Entertainment, we talked about the shows, the comedy, etc. There's just a lot to do on this ship. As you can tell, we're very excited. This is a great ship. What's not included here again are spa treatments, the Wi-Fi, specialty restaurants, which we do not recommend anyway, the laser tag escape room, any kind of shopping, anything like that. We also don't recommend the Key program. So the Key program is something they offer. It's about $25 or $30 per person per day, and you get to board early, which you're going to do anyway. And then they offer you a nice sit down gluten-filled lunch, where we're going to have a gluten-free lunch already included in your Celiac Cruise. So you don't need to worry about the Key program at all. So that's there. Now, Wi-Fi, one more time, I'm just going to go over it because it was here. So when you get on board, you're going to put your phone on airplane mode so that you don't get any international roaming charges. That's the number one rule. The second rule is then you can connect to Royal Caribbean's internet for free, or you can connect to Royal Caribbean's internet for a cost. And you can get an unlimited internet package from them ahead of time, which will usually save you some money. But if you connect for free, then all you can do is use their app and to see what all the onboard experiences are that they're providing, not the ones that we're providing, but the ones that they're providing. And then there's also a chat feature within their app where you can chat with people on the ship. So that's the free version. If you want to stay connected with the folks back home, if you want to stay up to date on social media, if you want to send emails or do FaceTime calls or call people back home on your airplane mode, you would connect to their internet on board the ship and pay to the paid version to be able to do all that. And we can go over that more later when you're on the ship.
So again, just to a lot of information. We recognize that. We offer these webinars just to try and, provide as much information as we can to you all so you know what to expect a bit. Sometimes, being there, seeing it all kind of clicks and makes a little more sense. But these are just 3 examples of things that, we keep referring to this email that will be coming to you. But just so you know, you'll have everything available in your hands so you know where you need to be, where you want to be, where you could be for the duration of your week. So that this one at the top of the page, excuse me, is just your week by day guide of all the different events happening specific to Celiac Cruise. As Connie mentioned, all of the Royal Caribbean, the shows, the zip lining hours, the comedian, the bingo, all of that is going to be found in your app. But all of the specific Celiac Cruise offerings will be in what we send you. Obviously, we're not going to Galveston, so you're not going to be getting this guide, but this is just an example of what we provide that we'll be sending for New York City, and nearby areas. I always try and, do a deep dive. We've got people who live in these areas who are, again, celiac, gluten-free, to provide anything we may have missed. Obviously, I've spent some time up there already, have some recommendations in place, but perhaps, those airport offerings. Obviously, we all know our Find Me Gluten-free app that we all rely upon, but it's nice to have all of this in one place. So that's why we offer this. And then that onboard dining guide that we've referenced a few times. So all of those different times that we talked about, even the Coco K place offerings and where to go will be in that onboard dining guide that we will be sending you. So lots of information, but it will all make sense, and you'll have these things to kind of, get you through the week. Our advice is to kind of just make sure, you're where you need to be on day one, where to go for lunch, have your lunch ticket, and then we are going to get you where you need to be from that point on without missing any of the fun. Many of you have asked about the theme nights. This is completely optional. I mean, as we say, and we'll continue to say, it's your cruise. You can choose to go all out, or you can choose to just be comfortable. They have in the dining room, specifically talking about dinner and lunch as well. They ask no bathing suits, no, towels, things like that. I think bare midriff, things like that. They'd like you to be clothed walking in the dining room. But other than that, your casual is fine. So this is just what they have guided us for purposes of the evening attires. We do participate if you want to, but again, there is zero pressure to. I always think it's a good chance to, get a holiday card box checked if you've got your family together. Putting people, making them dress up together is, even if it's for an hour, that's generally what I do for my kids, wear this to dinner and then, they go back and change. But, those are the general themes. Sometimes, we will hear as we get right into this point, like, okay, there's like a country theme or a 70s theme. If we hear of that, that will be included in this email that we send you. So if those of you who really want to get into it, we can send you that stuff as well.
Yes. I do want to add here that formal night isn't quite as formal as it used to be. You won't see nearly anybody in a tux, but you might see some folks getting a little more dressed up for formal night. So if you decide that you want to dress up, that would be a perfect night to do that. And then Dress to Impress is just that. It's similar to formal. It's just another night where you can get fancy if you want to. So I just kind of wanted to mention that. So I wonder if we have any questions. I think we do.
Yes, we do. Okay, so some of you did send, some questions that I did go ahead and respond to them. I will say info@celiaccruise.com. If for some reason, you need additional information or it wasn't quite as specific, feel free to send us questions there. Or if you think of something after we conclude the webinar, please feel free to send them there. So it's just info@celiaccruise.com. Will we get a bag lunch at the end of the cruise? So we always want to say yes to everything. The reason we don't say yes, generally there's a law in place that prevents us from saying yes. And that has to do with USPH, which is Homeland, all these different laws that they do not want food coming off of the ship. And we would hate for any of you to end your beautiful, wonderful week cruising with fines because you're coming off with food at the conclusion of the cruise. Prepackaged things that you've come on with, our bars, the jerkies, things like that, that we all rely very heavily on. The prepackaged items generally are not an issue. But in terms of us wanting to pack a bag lunch for you to get you home, we are not allowed to because of the USPH laws and standards. So that is that. Will dairy-free desserts be readily available? Royal Caribbean is aware of of all of our additional dietary restrictions at this point. They know that generally speaking, we have a lot of dairy-free individuals. They do always try and offer dairy-free items, but we also encourage you to ask. A lot of times these chefs are so creative and it's just 5 minutes and they can twist something up. So just please ask, can this be done gluten-free? I mean, obviously gluten-free. Can this be done? I'm so used to that's all I say in my life. Can this be done dairy-free? And things like that. And I think sometimes you'll be surprised if it's not something you see already out on the line. How do we get the lunch ticket? That lunch ticket will be available. Well, it'll be in a few places. We're going to post it in the Facebook group. So again, if for some reason, it's you forget, and that's a quick place that you can remember me saying, wait, I think they said they put it in the Facebook group. So it'll be there. We know you won't be in the Facebook group unless we've let you in and know that you're booked with us. So that's a safe place there. But this will be in this final big newsletter that we will be sending to you at the conclusion of this week. So that's where that will be. And like I said, remember, one for your party is fine. Do not feel like you need to have an individual ticket for each person. Connie, where is the welcome aboard reception and expo?
The expo and welcome aboard reception is going to be down in the conference room, which is in deck 3 forward. So if you're in the Solarium Bistro for lunch, that's on deck 15. So you're literally just going to get on the elevator and go straight down to deck 3. And that's where it'll be during those hours. If you notice that there's a long line for the expo, feel free to just go explore the ship and come back a little bit later so that you don't have to wait in line. But that's where you're going to get all your credentials. So anytime between those hours, you can come by.
Can we arrive prior to our designated check-in time?
Yes, you can. Come on over anytime. I would say, wouldn't you say, Maureen, like 11, 11:30, no later than 12?
Yeah. I mean, as again, this seems to be very consistent that, people come and they really don't even look. They absolutely do not look at what your check-in time says. So I wouldn't be surprised I think it's a natural way to stagger people from all coming like the first possible time. But yes, secret information, people who have done this many times before, they're not checking your boarding time. But, they do have to wait for the ship to be cleared. So, we wouldn't advise you getting there at 10 or 10:30. 11 on, you are usually safe to go ahead and come on board.
There was a question about, do you need to make reservations for 5 p.m. dining? And no, you don't. You're already included in the 5 p.m. dining. You will be assigned to a table, and it'll be on your cabin key card. As Maureen said earlier, the cabins should be open around 1 or 1:30 p.m. And once you get to your cabin, right outside the door will be your room key cards, your cabin key cards. Each person on the ship has their own cabin key card, and you need that to be able to get on and off the ship. And that's how you charge things like at the bar or the spa or the gift shop. And that's also how you get into your cabin. So all of that is going to be on your cabin key card.
In deck 5, you will automatically be put on our deck 5 dining room if you're a part of Celiac Cruise. Okay, so that was that same question. Will the churro bar have somebody's been paying attention? Chances are high. How about that?
Yes.
Chances are very high.
We love churros.
Yes, yes. People come for the churros, and Royal Caribbean knows that. So everyone comes for the churros. So yes, those of you who don't know, we talked about the late night snacks, and this is one of the things that, I used to have a book that I go along and be like, dream things for Celiac Cruise, like the things that you just can never get. And churros was at the top of the list, and we begged and begged and begged for a little while, and finally we have achieved churro status, and churros are a part of that. So yes. Do the formal nights dress codes like no shorts to dinner apply to Celiac Cruise areas or only general areas?
So the whole ship is based on whatever the dress code is for that night. But remember, like we said many times, it's your vacation. So even though it may be formal night, many of us will be dressed up, but you don't have to unless you want to.
Is the Windjammer at late night going to be specifically gluten-free? Yeah.
Yes, it's gluten-free, and it's completely private. So without your wristband, you don't get in. And so we're going to have a lot of people, because the Windjammer is closed at 9 o'clock. And there's a lot of people who want to have late night snacks, but there are none on the ship unless you're with Celiac Cruise. And then we have our fourth meal because it is a huge buffet full of food at 10 o'clock.
What excursion at Coco Cay do I book for the buffet you mentioned?
It's included. It's part of the cruise. So the lunch on board Coco Cay Island for everybody on the ship is included for free. We have a special dedicated gluten-free line on the island at one of the pavilions. So we'll send you that detail, but it's only at one pavilion. There's a bunch of people on the island that have asked me, or, ask me any questions. And you can say, where's the gluten-free buffet? And they'll send you to the Skipper's Grill, to the area where and you'll see our signs and our banners, and you'll see us in our shirts and all of our staff there. If you don't see our signs and our banners and Celiac Cruise staff, don't eat it. Come to where you see the signs and the staff and the banners, and it'll be well marked, and it's included as part of the cruise.
So what area is the Coco Cay? So as we said, so this will be, again, we'll have a little map for you. And then also at check-in, we're going to specifically remind you of where we are going. The area is called Skipper's Grill, but we don't expect you to remember that. Again, the signage will be very significant, but we'll also have a map for you, just so you know, because the island is big and we want to make sure you get to the right place. But as Connie said, they have people all over the place. So when all else fails, you say, please get me to Skipper's Grill. And that is the area where the gluten-free Celiac Cruise lunch will be offered.
It's actually the closest grill to the ship. So it's, the main pavilion, and it's very convenient. It's right on the walking path. It's a great. And we have half of the whole venue. So, and our side is completely dedicated gluten-free.
Does the Royal Beverage package cover the beer tasting event?
No, because the beer tasting event is a philanthropy event. So all the proceeds go to feed families that can't afford gluten-free food. So that is a paid event. It's optional. And if you want to come, we'd love to have you.
are any of the fancy tropical alcoholic drinks gluten-free? So again,
Yes, you
I
can.
like the use of fancy too, because there are some really fancy, yummy ones. When we are on board the week before, Royal Caribbean traditionally uses the same mixers and things like that, but we do not take a chance in every label. Every label, single label is reviewed and checked and confirmed, because we all know supply chain things can vary, and things change. But as of now, and we will inform you should anything be different, there are two things in the bars that you cannot drink, and that is twisted tea, which has malt in it, and then the beer, the regular beer. So obviously, as you know, we have our gluten-free, 100% certified gluten-free beer, from Holidaily, to make sure you have that option. But we will, should anything change, you will be informed, following our deep dive site inspection, this week. How do we sign up for the Taste of Royal on day 6?
You will get an email from us and it'll contain a link that'll take you to the Celiac Disease Foundation's website where you can sign up and pay for that event. It is an extra cost because it's a philanthropy event, and it's like Maureen said, like a 6-course meal in one of their specialty restaurants. The ambiance is just amazing in this 150 Central Park restaurant. It's entirely gluten-free, and it's a dedicated kitchen for that event, and it's really incredible.
Okay, sorry. Are we able to take some of those prepackaged snack sandwiches to excursions? So when you check in, we will be providing you some bars in your bags, the check-in bags, recognizing that that is not a meal. The excursions, again, kind of similar to the question that was asked before about taking bag lunches off for a departure day. 30% of the time their USPH is off and we're not allowed to not bring non-prepackaged food. Have people done it and not have problems? This is being recorded, but no one else is hearing me say this. Many a times there's no issues. People put things in their bags and nothing is ever said. We need you to kind of be at your own discretion should you choose to do that, recognizing that every once in a while they will check it. But again, it's rare. So I guess that's kind of, gauging your comfort on where your risk level falls with that. Sometimes that's why the brunch options are happening. We do want to make sure that, you fill up long before, take some bars, but recognizing some of these excursions are really long, we'll leave that to your discretion, what you're most comfortable doing. How was that for a vague?
That's vague. Yes. So we can't say that you can take something off. How's that? That's our line. We cannot tell you that it is okay to take things off because that we cannot tell you that. That's all.
If our check-in
Oh, sorry, you go.
If our check-in is later in the afternoon, how do we assure we can get on for the day 1 events? So
just make sure that you come to the ship. Don't worry about your check-in time. Come to the ship around 11 or 11:30, noon at the latest. Remember, we leave at 3, so you have to be on board hopefully by 1, at the very last minute by 1:30. So you'll be fine because lunch will still be there.
will there be a dedicated lunch spot in the adults only club on Coco Cay? So I'm guessing we're referring to Hideaway and Cocoa Beach Club.
And neither of those have a dedicated lunch spot in that area, but it's a quick walk right to Skipper's Grill to where our dedicated gluten-free lunch is. So that's where you'll be able to get the food, is where you see our banners, our signs. That's where the only dedicated spot is on the island.
For all the foundation fundraisers, will you accept credit cards or do we need to bring checks?
Yep. So the link that we will send in the email will take you to the Celiac Disease Foundation's website where you will click and reserve and pay right there with your credit card.
Where will the recording of this webinar be located?
We're recording it on the cloud, and once it's downloaded and uploaded to our YouTube channel, we will be sending it out to you, to everybody on this call and everybody that missed the call too. So anyone that's sailing with us on this cruise will get an email with the link to this webinar.
Will there be opportunities for our celiac kids to meet up to do activities?
Lots of meetups for kids, teens, adults, lots of things. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yes, we recognize how important that is for everyone to have a chance to connect with someone. We have this thing that connects us, whether you're a caregiver, a parent, someone living directly with celiac. We're all living directly with it, but we're all playing a role in this. So it's been one of the coolest parts of all of this, is connecting with people and just, this thing that just binds us. It's this natural icebreaker. So we make sure we provide as many opportunities for that as possible. How long? Dinner 5 p.m. It's approximately an hour and a half. The question was, how long does dinner last? So it's approximately an hour and a half. Sometimes it varies, but generally speaking, that's the time. How can we register for a Celiac Cruise event if not on the app? We just covered that. So you'll be receiving that email and you'll be able to register for some of the events, some of the paid ones. But yes, you'll get that email later this week.
Is there a gym on the ship?
Beautiful gym. It's a beautiful, beautiful gym. So yes. For
And
dinner,
the gym is complimentary. There are some classes that you have to pay for, but most of the gym is complimentary. So if you want to go for a workout, that's there.
if it starts at 5, is there a time frame we need to show up by? Yes, they ask that we are seated promptly. The reason why is they, really, really, it's important to Royal that they're serving everything timely. So if, part of the dining room hasn't been seated yet, they like to keep apps, mains, desserts flowing at the same time. So they really do ask that you show up at 5 o'clock. The Sorrento's Pizza will be an option. They also have, as we stated, Park Cafe as well as Cafe Promenade will have quick service options, with those being prepared in our dedicated Deck 5 galley and being transferred in a separate trolley, contain separate elevators, all these different precautions that are in place. And then they will be stored in those venues. So that can be something that for some reason, you don't get back in time, something to hold you over till 10 o'clock for late night snacks. Sorrento's Pizza have dairy-free options. We always really, really, really try and make an effort for that to happen. There has been occasions, supply chain, it doesn't show up. The last few cruises, we have had dairy-free cheese, so I will keep my fingers crossed, Sam, and hope it's there again. But we know it's important because many of us are dairy-free. Dinner only buffet or sit-down table service? Dinner is sit-down table service.
Exactly at 5 o'clock prompt, and you'll sit at the same table with the same waiter every night.
Yes. Do the menus change every day? And does it differ between Solarium Bistro and Main Dining Room? Yes. Every single evening, you will have a different menu. We take great pride in that. There's plenty of options as opposed to the 2 options we're used to. The Solarium does have a different matrix. They generally do have some staples, pancakes, French toast, things like that, hamburgers, hot dogs, but they do vary a lot of the mains in there as well. Connie, transportation from the Newark airport to the port, and how busy is traffic? Estimated transit time.
It's about a 20 to 30 minute transfer from the airport to the port. Uber is very easy in the New Jersey area, so Uber, Lyft, cabs. You can get a transfer from Royal Caribbean. It's too late to get one to the ship. So if you don't have one already, then it's best to go ahead and just get an Uber or a Lyft or a cab. But while you're on the ship, you can you can actually book it in your app on the ship and get a transfer back to the airport at the end of the cruise. But I would suggest I would think it's about a 20-minute ride.
My wife is also bothered by corn and oats, which I'm told isn't entirely unusual for celiacs. We do not have oats in any of our products, given just what you stated, due to the comorbidities with oats a lot of times with people with celiac. So there will be zero oats in any products that are served a part of Celiac Cruise. Corn, we will ask that you ask specifically to your server and they will confirm with a chef because some of the products will contain corn, but not a ton usually. So we'll just want you to specify that allergy when you sit down at your table and talk to your server so they can just make sure that that is flagged and we can make sure you're getting what you need. Do we have someone drop us with the luggage and then go park the car or park and
Yes.
walk luggage? Question.
Yes. So if you are driving to the port, you'll drive up, drop off your luggage, and leave someone there. Or actually, everybody can get back in the car, and then you go park the car, and then you come back and board. But yes, there is a luggage drop off, and if you have your luggage tags already on your luggage, it'll go faster. If you don't have luggage tags on your luggage, they'll have a list and they'll be able to give you luggage tags, but it just takes a little bit longer. Luggage tags will be found on your app or on royalcaribbean.com after you finish all your online check-in.
If your family members are not gluten-free, they will just be eating in a different dining room, correct?
No, everybody that books with us with Celiac Cruise has the opportunity to eat with us. They'll be seated in our gluten-free dining room on deck 5 at 5 p.m. for dinner. For breakfast and lunch, they can either go to the Solarium Bistro, or they could also come and eat in our dedicated gluten-free restaurant, deck 5 for lunch. But if they are not gluten-free, they can literally go anywhere and eat the gluten that they want. So they can have, the gluten in the Windjammer buffet. They can have gluten-containing pizza. They can have gluten-containing beer. None of that can be brought in our safe space, which is our gluten-free dining room or our gluten-free Solarium Bistro. But they can go most of the time, on a cruise, the big deal is dinner. Like being able to sit down and have dinner together as a family is just a really amazing part of the cruise. And so most families, even the ones that don't have gluten, the ones that are not gluten-free, come to our dining room and eat as a family because it's just an amazing, and our food is great too. We've had a couple people who tried to go to a different restaurant and they came back and they're like, oh my gosh, your food's so much better. So just know that everybody that books with Celiac Cruise has a seat at the table.
Can you wear shorts to dinner?
You can. They just suggest that they're not like, torn and tattered. Dinner is on casual night, dinner is, just think about going out to dinner on a Friday night or something. So whatever you would wear there, shorts are fine. Probably not, you probably wouldn't want to wear that on formal night, but you can if you want. It's your vacation. We said that again and again.
Can we order room service? So as I mentioned, room service, because of our being there, because of all of the efforts and mapping that goes into Celiac Cruise and our operations, they reroute room service to deck 4. So it is not part of our dedicated galley. It is we do not advise it. You will not be getting food from the dedicated deck 5 dining room. Obviously, there's items there that are naturally gluten-free. The coffee, the fruit cups, the yogurts, things like that. There's, people do that. I just would not advise the other offerings. But again, we advise you to do what you traditionally do at home. But yes, it is not coming from the deck 5 the dining room galley. We'll be able to get alcoholic beverages in the main dining room during dinner. Yes, you will.
Anything that doesn't contain gluten can come into our space.
No gluten beer, friends. So yes, we want to make sure that dining room remains gluten-free. So as soon as you leave that dining room, if you need to have a gluten-containing beer, you're more than welcome to, but it has to be outside and after our dinner service. The same thing goes for all of our venues. So that would be breakfast and lunch breakfast, lunch, and dinner, all of our meals in our venues, as well as late night snacks. And I encourage you to try the Holidaily. You may be surprised. Is sauces gluten-free? Yes, we confirm and check just to make sure. We just came back from Europe, and yes, there's exceptions to some of these sauces for Bloody Marys, but we will confirm. But know that it will be checked, and if anything is different, you will be informed.
So this question is about deck 5 dining. It says that my boarding pass states that I'm on a different deck. So your boarding pass tells you what deck your cabin is on, but the deck 5 dining room is where you'll be eating. So just to clear that up. This one says, can I get one prepaid internet package for 2 people's phones? So you can order 1 or 2 or 3 internet packages, but you can also share. So it's not illegal or to share. So you would just have to log out and log in on the other one. But if both of you want to be on the internet at the same time, you can order 1 each, or one of you can order 2 to save a little bit of money. And then that way both of you can be online at the same time.
How long does the taste of
Oh,
royal last?
yeah. The question is, how long will Taste of Royal last?
Usually about 2 hours. So it's a beautiful meal experience. So like we said, 5 to 6 courses. So it's about 2 hours. Will items say if they contain other allergens such as soy, egg, etc.? So this is, again, a legal policy with Royal Caribbean. In addition, so obviously every single thing that we are serving you is gluten-free. Additional dietary restrictions, they need you to identify and call that out. They will not label dairy-free, soy-free on the menus. So we ask that you self-identify to your server, to a chef, and let them know that you cannot have soy or egg, but that will not be labeled on the menu. But know that every single thing, again, obviously is gluten-free. If non-gluten-free family members decide not to eat in dedicated gluten-free spaces, will I be sat with other solo-free cruisers or solo gluten-free cruisers?
No, you are assigned to a table for the entire cruise. So that will be your seat with your family for the entire cruise. So if they decide to eat somewhere else, then you would be still at your table.
Are you able to take food and drink from the solarium back to your room? This is kind of a makeshift way to offer, room service. So many people do this. I mean, obviously you are leaving the dedicated zone, but you can cover it up with another plate, cover it up with a napkin. But a lot of times that's what we will do. You can make your own plate and take it back to the cabin should you want to. The same thing goes with drinks. There is a water and ice machine, hot tea available in the solarium as well. So that's an option too. So, but all right. Well, great questions, everyone. We hope that, we've answered most of those things that have been swirling around in your head and, provides a little bit more information getting ready for your vacation. If you think of anything, like we've said, please feel free to ask questions, info@celiaccruise.com. Some of you had said that you're not in the Facebook group. If in fact you are on Facebook and want to be, please just send, again, an email to info@celiaccruise.com. We will send you a direct link to join the Facebook group. But yes, thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you all in 12 days.
Thanks again, and look for the recording tomorrow. Thanks so much. Have a great night.
Bye.